Hey look, SIG made it 2011. The P211-GTO is 6 hours entry into the double stack 1911 market, which, if you know it, is extremely oversaturated. So SIG had to do something to stand out in a sea of 2011s. I figured that they would just plop a 320 mag in there and say, oh look, our mags are cheaper, and call it good. But they went way farther than I thought they would by making it come at a very nice price point by 2011 standards. The easiest thing to compare the P211-GTO is going to be a Staccato XC, which has an MSRP of $4,300. It may sound like a really, really high price, but Staccatos aren't even the ceiling for how expensive these things get, especially when you're talking about island comps like both of these guns have. You're looking at Infinities, Atlases, you're going $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000. The P211 comes in at under $2,500, which again, sounds like a lot of money for a pistol, but by double stack 1911 standards, that is a phenomenal price point to come in at. Feature set wise, the P211, like I said, takes 320 mags, which there are plenty of these going around used nowadays, so you should be able to pick them up for extremely cheap, especially compared to the $100 Staccato mags or even the $40 Springfield mags. It comes cut to fit a Delta Point footprint optic. SIG themselves make a lot of these because the M17 is cut for them, so Delta Point will go on there, and I'm sure there'll be adapters to put whatever red dot you want on there. And as I said before, it has an island compensator, but it does something that is different from the XC. The XC's island comp is locked in there. If you want to go and shoot this thing in limited division, you cannot do it. The P211's comp is removable via a set screw, and you can probably replace this in the future with just a block without the compensator. If you guys don't know why that's significant, is as soon as a compensator goes on a handgun, you are immediately placed into the open division in USPSA and most other competitive shooting sports, which means that you're going up against some really, really, really absurd guns. You may not want to do that with a single port compensator, but you can throw a regular block on this and shoot it in limited division and have a grand old time. Ergonomically speaking, you've got some really nice serrations at the front and the rear. Very large and nice trigger guard, which I like. The bigger look, if you compare it to something like a Staccato, it is larger. The trigger itself is flat-faced and recesses very close to the grip, which I like a lot. You don't have to have your finger all the way out. It is much closer to the frame, which I prefer. The grip is one thing where it's going to be splitting some hairs. I have what I would call medium-sized hands. You may call them small, and I prefer the slightly thinner and more smooth grip of a Staccato. The P211 has a lot more texturing going on, but it is an overall slightly wider grip. It feels different because it is taking a different magazine with a different grip angle. They've added some more bevels to the P211, like this part goes out, while on the Staccato it is smooth all the way down. Overall, it's a very minor difference. I, with my sized hands, prefer the Staccato slightly more, but it's not a deal breaker by any means. And if you've got bear claws, you'll actually probably prefer this. The trigger is very nice. Can't really directly compare it and say it's nicer or worse, but it does have a more aggressive reset than the Staccato, noticeably so. A little bit more of a spongy break, but we're splitting hairs here. These are very, very minor differences. It's a good trigger, especially at the price point that it's coming in at. The slide on the gun is extremely smooth. I would not say it's Staccato XC or XL smooth, but it is certainly smoother than the Ps and the C2s, which, considering it comes in at the same price point as a P or a C2, I would say is a definite plus. It is light enough to where you can air rack the gun. There she is. Here's everything you get in the box here. Obviously the gun, you get 2 spare mags, plus the one in the gun. They are 21 rounders. Some replacement fiber optic stuff. You get a little rubber band that says remove before flight, because that's cool. This is the optic plate cover that came off of the gun before we put the Delta Point on there. Instruction manual, stickers, stuff like that. And a digital accuracy sheet. It shoots so flat. It's hard to say. I've got Kevin out here, the lovely gentleman whose house we are shooting at. Thank you very much. Kevin is an avid 2011 shooter. How many Staccatos do you have?
4.
Four Staccatos, so he's got a little bit of experience. He gets to shoot it in his backyard whenever he feels like it. Please, if you would, shoot them both, whichever one you want to do first, and then honest opinions.
SIG. this is recoils faster. It feels like the optic stays on target on the torso a little bit better. This has a little bit more weight to it. The trigger is definitely different. Now, I don't know that this feels like maybe a 2.5-ish. The flat trigger to me feels different, and the reset is short. It has a little bit, just a slightly little bit more recoil, a little bit more up to it. But with the comp compared to a gun that doesn't have it, they're both extremely flat shooting.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that is almost twice as much, this is, for the money, it shoots really, really nice.
I would tend to kind of agree. I would say that the difference is minute, if it is there. It is kind of incredible with how big the price difference is that we can even have this debate. Both kind of seem to do their own thing slightly better. Overall, I still prefer the Staccato, but if I were to buy one, I don't know if it would be worth the extra $2,000. The 2011 does seem to shoot flatter. I don't know if there's any science to that, but the hole is larger on the Staccato, which is a single port up top, versus the P211's is like triangle shaped and a slightly smaller, but it does have additional ports on the side. I don't know exactly which one would be better, but it does feel like the Staccato shoots flatter to me. But the P211 does feel faster, which I didn't think was possible. We're talking very small numbers here. It's not like this is going to blow this thing out of the water by any means, but XE is flatter shooting, just from my personal first time shooting it impression. The P211 does seem to cycle pretty much as fast as you can pull the trigger. Either way, you're not outrunning either of these guns, and coming from a Glock shooter, it is incredible how little effort you have to put in to control the recoil on these things. These things want to stay flat. I want to preface my little epilogue here with my own opinions. These are not Sharko's Tactical's opinions, just Omar's. I am not a fan of Sig Sauer. I would consider myself a Sig hater. I'm not a fan of the company, and I'm not a fan of a lot of the products they make. However, I really like this gun. It shoots amazing. The price point is extremely fair, more than fair, I would say, for what you're getting out of it, especially compared to what the rest of the market looks like. Really, really like this trigger. I would say even more than a stock XC's. I'm at a little loss for words, as you can probably imagine. The gun's great. Not an opinion on Sig Sauer. The P211-GTO is a phenomenal addition to the 2011 market, and I'm very, very positively surprised that they decided to price it at where they did. If you want to get into the 2011 game, or maybe get a new 2011, and you're kind of stuck between that price point of, do I buy the $700 T-Sauce or do I buy the $4,000 Staccato or the $7,000 Atlas, you might want to consider this thing. $2,500 will save you probably a lot of money, and it performed really well. Thank you for watching.